Hello, my name is Michael Wheeler with Alaska Computer Support. I'm here today to talk about passwords. Okay, so what I'd like to share with you is an ideology that we use on passwords to make sure that we, number one, keep them secure, and number two, if for any reason a password is violated, that the violator can't just run with it and take over your whole network and cause all kinds of problems, or even on the personal side of life, just can't all of a sudden start accessing all your bank accounts and everything else like that. So when I talk about passwords, I'm going to talk about two different pieces to the password. The first one is going to be a root, and then the second part of the password is going to be an extension. Okay? So when we talk about the root, what we're talking about is a very complex, very simple, easy to remember part of the password that we can change on the fly. And when we change it on the fly, because typically we want to do password rollovers, meaning we want to change all of our passwords, we want to keep them congruent, so that we know what they all are very easily. And so that, because hopefully we never have to share a password, but if, say, a password was compromised or had to be shared, then what we need to do is go back through all of them, quickly change them all, and understand exactly where they were. And if we ever forget to change one, it's very easy to step back and go, oh, hey, what was my prior root? Now I know what that was. Now I can go ahead and get in and change that password. So roots should consist of complex passwords. A lot of times we like to use words. Let's say we're going to use the word password. So what we could do with the word password is we could do a lowercase p, and then maybe a capital A, and then maybe a 5, and then an S, then a W, 0, RD. Okay? So we'll see here, that's a fairly complex password. I have upper and lower case, and if I wanted, I could even add a symbol. And so now that becomes the new password. Now for extensions, we're going to have to take and create extensions that make sense to us, but at the same term, aren't something that's so common sense that everybody will be able to run right through it. So when I talk about a server, I might have an extension of SVR1 and another one of SVR2. Or maybe it'd be some shortcoming of the name. So maybe the extension is for a company called ABC, and their server is ABC Server 123. So I might do something like AS1 for the ABC Server 1. And so once I make these extensions, though, they're assigned to the accounts, they're assigned to the devices, they're assigned to the things, and these never change. Okay, this is the only part of the password that changes. So another example of an extension might be like for a bank. So I might have something like Wells Fargo or Bank of America, things like that. Okay, pretty straightforward. So, but here again, we might want to switch these up a little bit. So like my Wells Fargo, I might make it W8. And I might make BOA B0A. So that way it's not as common sense, like I talked about before. So when we do these for servers and we do these on a professional level, one of the things that we're going to want to include is a symbol. Okay, and so typically that symbol lives right here. Now the reason for a symbol is it makes a password a lot more complex, a lot harder to hack. But the problem with symbols, and why I don't necessarily recommend symbols for private users, is because a lot of times certain institutions don't allow for symbols. And so then what happens is you end up with two roots. You end up with a modified root. And then that can cause problems because now I'm having to deal with two passwords, two different roots, you know, because of course at this point I'm dealing with a bunch of different passwords. Because typically we have everything from like our Yahoo account maybe, or a Google account, or our online bank accounts, to our different email accounts, and it's just typically the average person probably has 20 passwords that they have to deal with on a regular basis. So, because we also have our utilities that we check into and everything else like that. So, just to recap, we want to come up with a root password. If we're doing it for business, we're going to add a symbol. If we're doing it privately, we're more than likely not going to have a symbol. And then extensions. Extensions never change. They always stay the same. And we make root passwords, things that we can easily remember, and we always capture old root passwords, and we keep a list of root passwords. So if we're going to keep a list of root passwords, a lot of times these days we're all walking around with smartphones. So just a quick note on the smartphone is that when you, number one, put it in here, you want to make sure that your smartphone is locked. Okay? Smartphones should always be locked, especially with the new latest greatest versions. We have the ability to wipe them out as soon as the phone is lost. It's very difficult for somebody to hack into these phones. And so when we make that list, keep it somewhere secure. Okay? Okay, so when we talk about somewhere secure, we have two different types of security. We have physical security, which means that it's locked inside of a smartphone, or it's inside of a locked drawer in a desk, which is, physically secured. And then we also have digital security. And so we want to make sure that if we do it digitally, that it's not in the cloud or somewhere where it could easily be taken by someone else. So one last note that I'm going to leave you with before I close off this video is about smartphones. And one of the things that I did and found some time ago is that in my smartphone, I actually have a splash screen that I easily created using just the notepad on the phone. And mine in particular says, if found, please call, has my office phone number. This phone is the property of, with my name, Michael Wheeler. And then I have a little thank you note at the bottom of it. Because so often if you leave your phone somewhere, people want to return them these days, but they typically don't know how or can't. So here again, just a quick little splash screen on your phone makes it very easy and more likely that you're going to get your device back. So happy computing and keep those passwords safe.